friends are synths.
It's an unusually sunny day here in Scotland, but since I have the day off, I decided that I would spend the morning doing some music since I don't have a lot of time to do it otherwise at the moment. So what my plan is for today is to work on a track that I uploaded the other day as like or the other week maybe at this point, but I uploaded myself doing like a DAWless jam, or however you want to say that. I was fucking about with synthesizers, right? And I wanted to kind of progress that and make it into like a track rather than just a wee video. If you haven't seen the video, I basically hooked up the Poly tracker via MIDI to the MS-20 Mini here, and then I was playing a lead line on the MicroFreak, and I had the Microcosm doing some stuff. The Poly tracker was doing like an ARP lead, and it was also doing the drums. And so my plan is to take the tracker, I've exported the stems from the tracker and I've cut them all up into this, and if I play it back you'll hear the song. Aye. You'll also note that the tracker was playing there when I hit start on Logic, and that's because I have it hooked up via my wonderful multi-clock here. So now what I'm going to do is, because the tracker is sequencing the MS-20 Mini over MIDI, what I'm going to have to do is play the tracker patterns back, record the MS-20 Mini and kind of muck about with the settings and stuff, or like the modulation as we go, and then I'm going to add things on top of it and see where we go. The jam itself was pretty simple, but I want to kind of layer up the track and, I don't know, see what happens. And after that I'm going to go to the park and lie and drink a beer illegally. So here we are. So that's the MS-20 Mini sounds done. As you could see, I was fucking about with the LFO there, because I think that's one of the cool things about the MS-20 is how easy it is to play with that. And now I'm just chopping up the bits so that I can have some variation in the modulation, for example. And next what I'm going to do is play the same bass line back, but underneath, and I'm going to play it without any modulation so that there's like an undercurrent of the actual bass line, so that it can get wild on top and it won't take away from the actual core or foundation of the song. So now I have my bass parts in place. I got a nice subby sweep when I filtered the MS-20 Mini down, which sounds pretty awesome. So I no longer need the tracker, so I'm going to turn it off since it's done its duty for now. I guess I should unplug it so it's easier to do stuff. But now I want to add on the MicroFreak, do the wee lead line I was doing. If I can remember what that was from the jam, I might have to go back and watch that. I'm then going to take the ARP. So there's an ARP that I used the tracker for, if I can find it. Is that it? Nope, that's the kick, so it must be this. That's one of them, and then the other riff is... And as you can hear, it's pretty ear-piercing at the moment, so what I'm going to have to do is tame that a wee bit. I could just use plugins and add like a reverb and stuff, but I want to actually use some hardware since I've got the time today to experiment. So I don't know what I'm going to do, I'll see. But I think what I'll do first is the MicroFreak. Next step, I'm going to run the ARP from the tracker into my trusty secret weapon, the Zoom, whatever it's called, 1201, which has been circuit bent with all of these lovely wee freakish effects matrix. And so you'll hear what happens. I just need to muck about with it and find an effect I like because it's a bit unpredictable. What I'm doing is I've routed the output of the track in Logic into the input of the effect unit. So say hello to YouTube. Hello. This dog likes to be around while I make ear-piercing noises. The next thing that I want to do is I don't want to crowd things too much, because when you've got an ARP and then you've got reverb and kind of glitchy delay like I've put on thanks to the Zoom 1201, then it can get quite noisy quite fast and sound a bit too complicated to the ear. So I don't want to add any other kind of like straight up melodic parts or kind of complicated things. So I do want to make the drums a bit more interesting, because if you listen just now, you can hear the kick is just like, which is not the most inspiring. However, I was going to run it through a saturator, like one of these preamps or something, but I decided not to do that, and instead I'm going to run it into the Zoom 1201 again, because I found a nice industrial kind of sounding kick, so, well, an effect. Anyway, so here's what it sounds like. Oh, fuck. Come on, I better put it at a bit where there's more kick. Aye. So that sounds pretty fantastic. I don't even know what setting that's on. I guess it'll be on number 9. What's 9? It's on rotary, but it's got all these fucking switches, and my beautiful big eye is at a different place. So I'm going to record the drums now and saturate them and see how it goes. I should say probably I've got a Behringer compressor on the output of the Zoom 1201, because that way it stops things going too mental. So here we are. This is a lesson in what you're not meant to do. So I had wanted to use the microcosm, because I haven't used it a whole amount yet, but the kind of song is already quite full and I don't want to pad it out too much where it just becomes a cacophony of noise. Even though I quite like cacophony of noises, then I think it would be a wee bit too much. So I'm going to do a vocoder bit instead, just because I think that gives a wee bit of interest without me having to sing. So I'm going to do that, and then I think that'll be it done, and then I'll just play it. So there, thanks for watching my rambling as I turn a jam into a song. But that tends to be how I do these things, is I'll sketch out an idea with a jam perhaps, and then I'll find out a way to put them down in the studio. I tend not to, or I try not to worry too much anymore about spending hours and hours and hours on one track, because if I do that then I never finish anything. So my goal, or my kind of way of doing things now, is much more based on just make something interesting, finish it, and then move on and try something else. So that's it. Small cold shove, cold shove, cold